I finished Game of Thrones.
Well, you caught up?
Like all of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, all of it. I'm all caught up.
Did you read it or
How
just
do you-
watch it?
Well, you can't read to be all caught up. You must watch to be
True.
all caught up.
You could break into George R. R. Martin's house.
And into his brain.
And into his brain. Yeah, well, part of it's reading his transcripts, and the other one's like torture.
Chad, didn't one night you like try to use your Vive to project yourself into George R. R. Martin's
I don't want to put this on the podcast, but yes, I did. I did swordfish, which is a hacker term for hacking. I did swordfish my way into George R. R. Martin's home.
Term for hacking.
I swordfished into his home via his AOL internet connection, and it was weird because like I was kind of in George R. R. Martin, but also like I could see him, so it was kind of like out of body at the same time. And I made him start to tell, I guess, himself secrets.
Dude, well, what's
about
weird
the book.
about George R. R. Martin is that like his internet is just real old because he's never updated it. So it's still 1996 internet. So it's a lot of like gifs of like dancing hamsters and peppers.
Yeah, it's that level of AOL where it's like it's AOL Kids. So it's just like Nickelodeon SpongeBob soundboard.
Yeah. Well, it's keyword Nickelodeon to get to
the keyword thing.
Yeah.
It's
AOL keyword.
It's keyword George's Nickelodeon.
George's Nickelodeon. Well, what we're let's just be clear that what we're talking about right now is the internet tube that Chad had to get through just to get to George R. R. Martin's brain. So this isn't even George R. R. Martin's brain.
I had to fight
this is his
through
internet.
a whole Road Rovers fan page.
George R. R. Martin is so rich, he has his own internet leading to his brain.
Yeah, it's an internet of sorts.
You did battle with a web ring, didn't you?
Oh yeah, well, a web wraith.
Okay.
It's a web ring. Like it looks like a ring, but it's actually a spirit.
Okay.
Here's the thing. I got through all of it. His version of the story goes real different. It's just Bran, the Stark, who can warg into people. But like, so you're really excited because he like the next book is just him warging into different things, and like making sweet love to everything. Like that's all the book is.
Really?
Yeah, it's really weird because it's like I don't know. It just felt like it was out of place. Like the first one, you're like, oh, maybe he's gonna sneak into like the Lannisters' house and steal all their stuff. No, he just like turns into a bird and then just like has sex with other birds. And you're like, Bran, this is like. There's like 500 pages of this.
Yeah, this goes on, man.
He has a whole life. Like he marries a bird and then like has kids and then he leaves the bird.
Oh,
like,
so he like goes into
it,
things to have sex and then ends up because he's a kid and he's pretty innocent. He's like, well, I should probably see this whole thing through.
It's kind of like that Star Trek episode with the flute, how he likes living all these lives.
And he comes back changed.
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, you have that many relationships, you're gonna gain something from it. I actually read online that in the next season, Bran is he's gonna go on a little vacation. He's gonna go to an Australian walkabout.
This is a warg vacation, by the way.
This is a reward vacation, a reward for himself for doing so good, becoming the master.
Yeah.
And his plane crashes. And he ends up on an island.
I'm sorry, he has a plane.
And he can walk again. Yeah, he can walk again. And some people like him, some people don't. But you can find out more on the hit television series Lost.
I heard
that's what I've been describing.
I heard that he lands. See, I heard a different theory, which is that he lands in a place called George's Land. And
what? Wait, what is it?
I heard it was George's Den.
Well, that's okay. Yeah, there's a couple different options. There's been a couple leaks, and George's Den and George's Land are two of the titles that are going for it. But it's just George's place. It's just George R. R. Martin's place, and he interacts with them, and they have these really long, like very deep philosophical conversations together about his sex with different animals, and he really like gets into he wants to know like what the nitty gritty is.
That's so
are you
smart.
saying so? It's George R. R. Martin just writing about what it would be like?
It's like a thought exercise so he can find out what it's like to have sex with other animals so he can write it into the book. It's a real meta exercise he's got going on.
Okay.
What's real weird is that in George's Den, he's crippled. He's in like one of those Commander Pike wheelchair things. I don't know why.
Like the full body thing?
In reality, he can walk, but for some reason in this land, he's in that full body beat machine.
We have hit such a blender of 3 or 4 different franchises. I don't know what's going on anymore.
I think we ought to get right into
I think we should get
a
into
little
the
book. A little book.
Called You Can't Scare Me.
You Can't Scare Me.
Now You See Me Too.
Now You See Me Too.
You can't
the second act.
Second act. aka the Mud Monster book, I guess.
I guess so. I guess the original title may have been The Mud Monsters of
Muddy Swamp.
Muddy Swamp.
Doesn't it feel like the book just shifts from like weird, dumb pranks to suddenly mud monsters? Like it's not a thing.
Well, okay, so I watched the show. I didn't read the book, but I did read a synopsis, so I kind of know where you guys were with reading this. They don't go to the swamp at all until the end of the book, huh?
I read it like 2 weeks ago, so I'm trying to remember. Like,
yeah, they don't go to the swamp. They tried to go to the swamp. There's a treehouse or a clubhouse.
They are at the swamp in the beginning because I remember reading the synopsis, and it's a field trip they're on.
Yeah, they go on this field trip, but then they also return to this clubhouse that's there. Like the girl Courtney and I think her friend Denise. Yeah. They frequent this clubhouse, and in fact they try to lure them to the swamp for not the mud monsters. Earlier in the book.
Well, yeah. So this is the thing between the show and the book. The show is my favorite difference, and that it starts with a short vignette of an old man playing catch, like with a little girl, but they're like from the 1870s.
Yeah,
like it's the most. I've never seen two characters based on their attitude and outfits and costumes never fit in a background more. Because it's like they should just be in Boardwalk Empire, and then they're just in Gray Mudtown.
Yeah.
Like, why are they walking through this area? Like, oh, hello, how do you catch the ball? And he throws the ball, and then it goes into the mud.
It goes into the mud, and at that point, it's so far. Let it go, man.
That ball is gone.
It's gone.
I mean, I know that's all they had back then, if this is really the 1800s, but, like, the ball goes into the mud, and then you have to watch as, like, this old man, again, in, like, the finest outfit you've ever seen, try to walk across a log to reach into the mud to get out the ball. And it's so long.
Well,
it takes forever.
Chad, what you failed to pick up on in the subtext of the show is it's the Great Depression, and they have to get that ball back because it's their only possession.
That's the New Deal.
Yeah, it's the New Deal.
The ball represents the New Deal, and he represents the working class trying to get at it. But it has so far the funniest shot I've ever seen in the show of him trying to watch across the log, and then a muddy hand reaches out and pulls at his leg, and the girl, they could not get a better take of her. She's laughing while
screaming.
She's like, there's not a single good shot in this entire episode. Like, he grabs his leg, but it cuts back to the grandpa just falling face first in the mud. And the mud was just like a slide whistle.
Yeah, but it's the best part. It's like, it's the shallowest mud. Like
it's also like a centimeter of mud.
The hand is like made to look as if it's coming out of this deep bog, and the grandfather or dad falls in face first, and you can tell that he just splatted right onto the ground.
That old man might have died during the shooting. It was that physical. You don't see the mud monster, so it just ends on a fade to black as a girl screams and an old man falls into mud.
Scream laughs.
You know what the irony of that is? They don't have social security numbers in Canada, so there was no way to track him. So he really died.
He probably died
because he was reenacting this metaphor for the Great Depression.
You know, and as much like you guys have heard how in the Japanese version of Milo and Otis, right? Because Milo and Otis was originally like an Asian film.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It is just an Asian film with a new voiceover.
Yeah, they did voiceover. They basically like made it Americanized.
I didn't know that.
Like, the urban legend, which is probably true, is that because there's no like animal rights for dogs and cats in films back then, all the shots of Milo and Otis like going over a waterfall in a bucket were real.
Oh yeah, no, that's totally true. I mean, there's a scene. I think there's a scene where they come face to face with a bear, and there's no way those animals didn't die.
Like, so it's the saddest thing in the world. It makes me really sad. But like every shot, and there's multiple shots of dogs and cats going over a waterfall. Yeah, those are all new dogs and cats.
Many animals were harmed in the making of that film.
One of the stories from the set was that they just broke a cat's leg to get it to
for
limp.
no reason.
No. Yeah, no, to get it to limp first. Anyway, not to go down that dark
road. I can't joke anymore. I'm sad.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's a sad story. Almost as sad as this book.
That old man died like that.
Okay, forgetting the episode for just a moment.
Yeah,
let's just go ahead and talk about what this book sets up. This book goes ahead, and it starts with this field trip about these kids. They're all chewing gum for some reason. No real explanation.
It's a subtle ad for gum.
Everyone's just chewing gum on the field trip.
Kid fact, they love gum.
Kid fact, they love gum. If you hear a little clapping right now, that's Archie just getting a little scratch.
That's Archie Q the dog just scratching himself, a little thumping.
Chad's little dog Arch. So they're going on this field trip, and then our main character, he is at the end of a chapter, he's scared by some kind of creature, like, moving and looking at him on the ground, and then we find out it's a snake, and he's afraid of it, and then he's bailed out by a girl named Courtney. She takes the snake and throws it away, and he's scared, and everybody laughs at him.
Well, let me ask you this, because you say this. That's spot on. Who's the main character in this book?
It's what's his name? I can't even remember.
I think
his
it's
name.
Is like Hat.
I think it's
Hat is the best. It's Eddie. It's Eddie. Hat is the best friend.
Hat is the best
Because
friend.
I would almost argue that, like, it almost feels like Courtney, the main girl, is the main character, even though she's not. It's so weird.
She should be the main character because these other characters are all assholes.
Dude, okay,
it's
so
like Bulk and Skull as people.
in the books and all the stuff we talk about shitty kids. These are very shitty kids, and the normally okay. So I was really thinking about this today because I was like, okay, they're always these shitty kids, and I was like, you know what? That's kind of a hard thing though. If you do, especially like a horror anthology, the main character in a horror anthology short is usually a shithead, you know, typically,
Sure.
which is okay. But usually they're like a smart shithead that kind of like knows what they're doing. These are the most inept shitheads of all time.
You know who these kids are? Because I hated them too. These kids are, fast forward 10 years later from this book, they are YouTube prank stars.
Yes.
Like, that's exactly what they're just, like, not creative. All of their stuff is, like, revolving, like, let's get a bug. Let's get a snake.
Yeah, so after the snake incident, just to give the timeline here, because it is very simple, this book.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Eddie is somehow insulted by the fact that Courtney has bailed him out, and everyone is laughing at him. So he wants to get back at her.
Yeah, and why did they hate Courtney? She's fine.
She kind of gloats a little bit. She does throw bees at him, which is like a thing that happens.
Okay.
I don't know how you can do that, but bees were thrown.
It's an amazing martial arts. I will say they take that out of the show too. They make Courtney just kind of great and perfect.
So
like she does nothing wrong.
In the show, she's just perfect and smart, and that's why they hate her. So I was like, okay, she's actually just a good person. But
that's kind of what happened in the book.
Except she does throw bees at him.
Well, she does throw bees at him, but she does get the snake away from him that's scaring him. That's the very first thing she does.
Multiple times. And she also, I believe, gets the spider off them later, right? Like, she is constantly fixing their mistakes that they do trying to prank her.
Yeah, they try to drop a spider on her, I think, in gym class, and it lands on their other friend, Molly, and she helps her out. She's like, oh, tarantulas, they don't even bite you.
Yep.
They probably won't even bite you.
And I want to talk for a second more about how great... It's Courtney, right? The girl's name is Courtney?
Yeah. Courtney, yeah.
How great Courtney is, other than she throws bees. Like, at least from my memory is... she's amazingly great with animals. I thought she was going to be like a Beastmaster reveal at the end or something. I thought she was going to be like some sort of like I talk to all.
Wait till we get to the
animals.
TV show, but keep
Well,
going.
we can wait till yeah. I thought she just suddenly has some sort of psychic ability. She's super dope with all of the teachers. Like the teacher's like, "Oh, hey, Courtney, how's it going? You're the best. I love you." And she's like, "Hey, teacher, you seem like you're down on your luck. Would you like my lunch?" And she like gives lunches away.
She's like the Jesus
person.
of this school.
And like their pranks that they go to set up, like in the incident where she gives a lunch to another teacher, there's a fake snake planted in that bag, and the teacher gets scared by it. So these kids are just like it's collateral damage left and right on these kids' terrorist attacks.
They're ruining lives
on this girl's life because they're trying to terrorize her. That is terrorism.
They're really doing an Operation Enduring Freedom on this school right here.
These kids are so terrible, by the way, that I wrote these lines down because I cannot believe it. When they're talking about how much they hate Courtney, this is their first line. And it was she's talking about like her book report, like that thing on the TV show was her giving she just told a short story about a mud monster, I guess, like killing people, right?
Yeah.
They go, "Oh, she talks like a book."
That's what she said. In the show, they say that too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. And then they go, "Oh, hey, I got something for her. I got a snake." And then the other guy goes, I think Hat goes, "A snake for a snake." And then they high five each other. They're terrible people.
Yeah, they don't know how to speak.
Yeah, their transition after when they're like we're gonna get it with that snake. They just start going hissing at each other.
Do you think that was a dig at RL? She talks like a book.
Well, they did that thing that like every writer. I don't know who wrote this episode. There's things like TVs and movies where a character talks about writing, and it's like the writer of that script trying to like jerk off in front of the audience, kind of thing. Like how great it is to write, or like I'm foreshadowing a character's motivations. She does that at the beginning of the TV show.
Right.
Yeah.
That might have been RL. Yeah, dig at RL. Who knows? Oh, I will point this out. This character, Revelation, might be RL because this character is Jewish.
Okay.
Wait, is she?
I'll tell you. There's a key clue.
Okay.
Not that it's bad to be Jewish. I'm just going to point out that this character is Jewish. Her lunch, when the teacher's like, "Oh, I don't want to take your lunch, even though you're offering it to me. It's really cool of you." She's like, "Oh, it's smoked salmon and cream cheese." She's having bagels and lox.
Oh, RL was eating lox when he was churning this bad boy
What
out.
I love is that you were like, it's not bad to be Jewish, but I'm going to make this assumption about her for
I
her
wanted
dietary.
to label this character as Jewish, and I want everyone to know.
Well, I guess RL does put a little bit of his own taste.
What if that's what RL thought that every kid ate for lunch?
Was salmon and cream
smoked
cheese
salmon and cream
at
cheese.
school. Well, I guess it is a peculiar lunch for a kid to have, so they could hate her for that for no reason.
It's a bit of a hoity-toity lunch. I think that might,
I mean, smoked salmon is pretty.
I think that's
pretty
yeah.
upscale.
Yeah, smoked salmon. Like she got up early in the morning. It's like I gotta run this over a smoker for like 3 or 4 hours before it's gonna be good to eat.
But just to go back to the beats of the prank war, we'll call this prank wars.
Yeah.
Prank Academy.
Prank Academy, prank versus prank. All these terrible YouTube channels.
All this stuff. That's what this book is. They try to scare her with the fake snake. The fake snake doesn't work. They try to drop a tarantula on her. It falls on their friend. They try to scare her with a dog, which means that a dog could actually go crazy and bite someone. So that's a terrible idea.
No, it's very dangerous.
Turns out the dog gets lost. This is the swamp they try to scare her with the dog in.
Yeah.
And it turns out that she has a huge dog that's more intimidating than any dog these guys know.
Yeah, all their scare tactics are very dumb. Like, I will say, I don't remember if the book, I don't think the book they cover that she wrote a short story about mud monsters. I don't think that's...
No, that's not in the book.
But just the logic of it, at least in the TV show, they continue that even further of... She tells a short story about a mud monster killing 2 people.
Right at the beginning, yeah.
At the beginning. So she wrote that. So she's also an aspiring author, R.L. Stein.
Yep.
Later, they're like, hey, we should scare her with those same mud monsters she wrote about. That would not scare her. She came up with the monster.
She is their god.
Like I write Sonic fan fiction. I'm never going to be scared of Sonic fan fiction. I'm prepared for all of it, for example.
That's not necessarily true. I mean, H.P. Lovecraft writing his Cthulhu stories.
True.
If he saw a real Cthulhu, he would pee his pants.
I think H.P. Lovecraft was going, yo, what's up?
No.
What's up, Shuggoth?
No, it would take his face and crush it.
You're probably true.
But the mud monster stuff does come into play because she loves monsters. That's established.
She's pretty cool.
She goes, I love monsters. They exist. and mud monsters exist here because every full moon it happens or something. Mud monsters come out.
In the show, she's like, monsters do not exist. Or she says that. Wait, I can't remember if she says she thinks...
She says like a cryptic thing about how like monsters are a reflection of humanity.
Oh, you know what?
Or something.
Yes, she says that monsters can exist. There's just no proof yet.
Yeah, well, in the book, she directly points out the photograph of Loch Ness and says that is proof.
Oh,
Wait,
right.
so
But anyway.
this girl is R.L. Stein.
Maybe.
Believes in monsters, Jewish, talks very dryly, it's all bald.
She did complain about having sore toes.
That sounds like a very
I don't know if that's something R.L. Stein would complain about, but he is an older man, and an old man would complain
He
about
suffers
that.
from that, yeah.
But anyway, finally, we get to...
Hold on, Dom, there is one more that I read about in the synopsis. I don't know if you remember this part. Apparently, a cat gets stuck in a tree, and an old lady asks them to save the cat.
Oh, one of the best parts.
It's not even scary.
The boys can't because they're afraid, and she comes and she saves it, and then the old lady belittles Eddie for not being brave enough. So somehow, so not only are they being shown up by when they try to scare her and she's not scared, but also she's just a better person, and the world thinks that she's a better part of the community than them.
Yes, I don't even think the cat was supposed to be like dangerous looking. I think it was just a cat. And
it was just a cat, and it was like getting up in the tree would be difficult, but Courtney could do it, and it gave him more reason to envy Courtney, I guess.
She's just brave and great.
But anyway, it's established earlier on that Eddie's brother Kevin and his friends are shooting a mud monster movie, and they have mud monster costumes. So Eddie, the genius that he is, he's going to scare this girl who believes in monsters with a mud monster costume, an actual urban legend
Can I just
in
call
their town.
What a weird little coincidental detail that there's like a fun indie filmmaker in the 90s shooting a Mud Monster film.
Well, let's be clear. This is his jerk-off brother with his jerk-off camera. So
I thought it was like a real film crew.
No, it's him and his friends.
I think that this town...
you know he's a jerk-off because he just refers to Eddie as a punk the entire time. But, I mean, it's kind of validated.
He's a real buzz.
You're probably right.
He's a real buzz.
Yeah.
What he is.
I was like, look at this booming indie film scene going on in this small town. I was really proud of them. You're right. It was just jerk-offs.
It was just jerk-offs.
I'm just convinced that the town of Muddy Creek is 90%, the GDP of it is based on the Mud Monster.
Yeah, there's like Mud Monster shirts and souvenirs and mugs. Come on down.
This town is thriving off of Mud Monsters.
So, do you guys mind if I just go ahead and say how this book ends now?
Yeah, because nothing happens in this book other than pranks.
Just these pranks, failed pranks. It's like watching a prank channel if none of the pranks went correctly. And every time the person who was supposed to be pranked was like, "Hey, did you drop this? Here you go." And they were like, "Oh." And then you're like, "Oh, those guys are assholes because they try to prank a good person." Anyway, that's the entire book up until the end. They're like, "We're going to scare them with these mud monsters. We're all out here in the swamp. Oh, I see the mud monsters right now. There's 3 of them. That's my brother and his 2 friends." And then, "What's that behind me? More mud monsters." And that turns out, the monsters behind them, that turns out to be Kevin and his 2 buddies. So the mud monsters over there are real.
Oh,
everyone
shit.
sees them. Everyone screams and runs home.
Yep.
That is the end of the mud monsters.
Yep.
They do not come back. They are not addressed. No one goes to investigate it, despite the fact that they're on the fucking cover.
Yeah, the cover should have just been 2 dumb kids, just holding a spider.
It should have been just a kid, a child just being peed on by his older brother, which probably happened later.
It should have been Christina, whatever her name is, just eating a bagel with locks. It should have just been like that. Her just
being
into the table.
"You can't scare me, bitch."
Can't scare me. I'm feeling pretty good. Just like there's nothing. that happens in the
you don't
story.
like the fact you don't like my idea of Kevin peeing on Eddie. His dick's not on the cover, but a pee stream.
I think you could probably get away with like a vague stream coming out.
A Calvin stream.
Okay.
Calvin, yes, it's just the Calvin.
Yeah, if it's comically bouncing off his forehead, then it's okay. But anyway, it's just so crazy to me that the entire time we get a little taste of this mud monster here and there. They finally show up. They're 100% real.
Yep.
And we never come back to it.
And once again, we have another thing where the book dances around a incredibly more interesting plot line.
Yes.
AKA, that's not how that AKA works. AKA, following Eddie's brothers shooting a film in the woods about mud monsters and mud monsters being real.
If you just made the book just those 2 elements,
yes,
you have a book that is spooky.
Yeah.
One, they'll be in the mud and the woods more.
Yeah.
It
should have just been Eddie making a school project video about the mud monsters, and he sees them.
But why doesn't that seem so obvious to do after writing this? Like, wouldn't you just...
Well, I don't think it fits into the theme of the book, which I totally know what it is.
What is the theme of the book?
This book is about Jesus. And
please tell me how.
Catherine imprisoned in mud.
Being imprisoned in mud. Catherine believes in Jesus, but there's just no proof for him yet. And then they see Jesus at the end.
Wait, hold on. So it's like that Bible story of like people who weren't the main apostles. They were just people who just like had one encounter with Jesus on the road after he risen.
Yeah.
They're like small. They're like way off tangent from Jesus.
Yeah, they're just a little Jesus story.
You know, my uncle's in the Bible. He meets Jesus on the road.
He saw Jesus in the road. He definitely saw it. He was right. I don't know why they became...
When the Bible first came out, people could say that. They were like, my uncle's in the Bible for like a page.
Yeah, his toes were sore. Jesus made him feel better.
I never thought about just bragging.
And be like, you know, that's my dad.
You see someone reading going, right there? Right. He just flips the page over 5 more pages, right there.
See, it says, when a man, he pointed to my dad when he said that.
Yeah, that was my man saying, I want more bread. That was my pop.
That was my dad.
That was my dad.
He was hungry that day.
Wait, so Jesus is the mud monster?
Yeah, it's about faith. She believes in the mud monsters and the kids don't. And
so what's pranking? Is pranking just our crappy lives?
that's just the hell of life.
Okay, that's actually pretty accurate.
All right.
Just a hell of regular old life.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I want to talk about that. This might be the most disappointing book ending because nothing happens.
Well, so apparently the book ends with the kids not wanting to try and prank her again because they're too scared now, right?
Lesson learned,
I guess. I guess these kids learned a lesson about pranking. But the show
is something else.
I don't know if it's a worse ending. I don't know.
It's a worse. Okay, the show is a 3-beat joke, and that's it. And it hits the third beat of the joke, and it's not that big of a surprise.
Paul, why don't you?
It's not
explain.
that funny.
No, it's not funny. Paul, so please explain. So we get to the point where like they're now all in the swamp. This is another book of swamps, right?
So one boy is covered in oatmeal.
Well, so they excise a lot of the. Yes, one kid is covered in some weird oatmeal.
You will note that the mud is not brown.
No.
Oh, it is
oatmeal.
The mud in the movie or the mud in the show is funny.
It's pretty much a movie, though.
Yeah, it's pretty much a movie. The mud is funny because I don't know if the costume of them just putting mud on one of the kids is intentionally bad because they want to show how bad the kids are at pranks, or because they didn't have the budget. Like it's just making a kid dirty.
Judging by the production values of this entire 21 minutes, it is probably just shitty. It's this. We already pointed out the girl laughing at the beginning. During the snake prank.
So many shots.
During the snake prank.
Oh, yeah.
They have the real snake goes into the bag.
Yes.
And then when the teacher pulls the snake out, it's a clearly a black plastic snake
I wrote that
which
down.
he also throws at the girl. He throws it at his student.
But it's not just a fake snake; it's a different colored snake. The snake they have in their hands is like brown.
Well, because
very clearly brown.
Yeah, and they could have gotten away with like, okay, maybe she just like holds the black one in her hands, but they cut back to her and she's holding the original brown, light colored snake in her hands. At that point, it's terrible.
It's pretty cheap. Yeah, go ahead.
It's just atrocious. There's a great there was one great note that I had, which is when they're finally they do the spider one, the tarantula again, which works out somewhat similarly, but not quite exactly the same. But when they figure out that they're going to do the mud thing, when she's being praised for her story in the newspaper, her Mudman story, Hat is doodling in class and then pulls up a very incredibly accurate and detailed doodle of the mud monster. Which he just whipped out in the last 5 minutes in class.
Someone from production was drawing that all day, and they were like, "We should put that in the fucking show."
It's fucking great. It looks just like the mud monster. And then so they do end up in the forest preparing. There's a great sequence where he's covering him in mud, and then the other kid decides, "I'm going to fall on my friend and cover him in mud, cover Hat in mud."
Have we established that? The idea of because the show is a little different. Hat is going to be the mud monster.
Yeah, Hat's going to be the mud monster.
Eddie's going to be the
putting mud on
monster.
themselves.
Hat convinces Eddie that he has to be.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
That's Eddie. Oh,
I don't know.
Anyway,
we should know which one is hat. There's a hat on his head. Like
yeah, but anyway, one of the kids decides to be one of the mud monsters, so he gets covered in oatmeal.
And then he drops himself onto Hat, covers him in oatmeal, and then they. For a good minute, grunt at each other. Did you guys notice that?
I blocked that part out. I don't remember that.
There's at least 30 seconds of them just grunting. There's no. It's monosyllables of them just being like, just like grunting at each other.
As they slap mud.
It's odd. It's really odd.
This episode and book is 100% proof that the success of the Goosebumps books was the design and artwork of the book.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
because
great.
If you read this book and said, why don't we adapt this to a TV episode? You would be slapped. You would be slapped so hard that you would lose all ability to write. You wouldn't be able to adapt the episode. Because there's nothing happening in this stupid book.
It's atrocious. They hide in the woods for a while longer in the show. And then the mud monster shows up and scares Hat. And Hat freaks out. Then there's a slow shutter speed chase through the woods.
Oh, and let me point out, by the way, Paul, real quick. To further prove, I just realized why the budget's just so bad. So Eddie or Hat, whichever one has the mud on him, is supposed to look like a mud monster.
Right.
Clearly still a kid. The other one then sees a real mud monster, which looks like Clayface.
Yes, exactly.
And then goes like, friend, is that you? There's no way that's your friend. Like, there's not even like for a moment you would think that is possibly your friend with mud on him.
You know your friend Eddie, and he is not capable of anything that good.
Well, you're like, Eddie, we don't have that type of budget. Where'd you get that?
You got really good in the last 3 minutes with makeup. Sorry. He chases him through the mud.
The wonderful slow
speed.
shutter. They just slow that shutter down. Everything gets real blurry and just real trippy, and you don't really know it because it covers up the shittiness of everything, which is just some slow shutter. That goes on for a couple of minutes, and then Hat shows up with Eddie. He tries to tell Eddie about it. Eddie's like, nah, you're a dummy. Catherine shows up. Again, your guys are dummies. It starts to snow.
Who is Catherine?
Catherine, right?
What's the girl's name? The great girl's name? Catherine?
There's a Molly.
No, the main girl. The girl is perfect.
Oh, no, her name is
Christine?
Courtney.
Sorry.
Catherine,
Courtney. Sorry. Whatever. They're the same.
Yeah.
Courtney.
She shows up, makes fun of him. It starts to snow, which I just assumed was like an accident because they were in Canada and they were like, oh,
shit, I didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
So it just starts snowing in the middle of the scene. And then and then the mud monster shows up behind Courtney Cathy. And they're like, mud monster. And she turns around and she's like, okay, hold on a second, mud monster. The mud monster is still grunting at her. Then she continues to talk, and there's just weird fades between the scenes.
Oh, yeah, well, explain. It makes this just very clear. At that moment, you think it's going to be some sort of crazy Goosebumps reveal, like, oh, she's a mud monster person herself, or she can talk to mud monsters because she's talked to animals. You thought there's going to be some sort of twist, right?
Yeah, but it's just that she just is so know-it-all that she knows if she just talks to the mud monster, it'll get bored.
Yeah, the mud monster gets bored to death.
It gets bored, and then the snow stops. And it hardens in the sunlight.
The sun came out, and you just see a time lapse of them just taking 3 different shots and crossfading of it. Why would the mud monster stop and listen? Like, it just stands there with its arms crossed and dies.
Well, it's just as boring as the book.
But it's supposed to be like a joke, like Paul mentioned. Like, it's supposed to be funny. But you're just mad because you've been waiting for 22 minutes for anything scary to happen.
And despite the fact that the snow would keep them moist,
right?
That
too.
Entire time. They should have said that snow was like, oh no, it's mud ash or something.
Right. Well, so that
makes sense.
That happens. Then
it makes more sense to me.
I'm trying.
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, it's making more sense. So then after he freezes, suddenly the news crew is there, and Courtney's talking about how she just got off the phone with the president.
That's right. I love that line so much. As I was just telling the president about the mud monsters.
Yeah, which I think is a dig at America.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Mud slinging, that sort of political stuff.
Yeah.
This is a post-Bush, post-Bush 1 era
post-Bush
America.
1 era.
Yeah, they're still pretty pissed.
Yeah. So they're pissed about that. And then then they walk off to town. It starts to downpour all of a sudden.
Yeah.
The kids sit down on a bench and start...
Well, no, so Paul, you're jumping... Sorry to cut you off. You're jumping over a key detail.
What's that?
Where she's telling the news story and cops, and they're all not just going, you saw a monster, they are looking at the monster.
It's right there.
The camera crews are filming, like, breaking news, monsters are real, this should change life as we know it on Earth.
Right.
Yes.
It starts to rain, but then she goes, oh, bother, because she's suddenly British.
She's British now.
Like, the rain, such a bummer. Shall we take this back to town hall? And she pulls out an umbrella because she's Mary Poppins, and they run away. They leave the monster there.
They just leave it.
It is the most insane plot hole.
They leave the monster right there on the ground.
Leave it.
Like, it's just there. No one, like, if it had been in government body bags, like, sealing them away or something, I'd be like, oh, that's interesting. What are they going to do with that?
Oh my god, a new form of life. Oh no, it's raining. Let's get out of here.
Let's talk about this interview.
We'll come back to it later.
We'll come back to it later.
Well, what's so key about the rain there, Paul? What happens next?
Our boys, Eddie and Hat, sit down and they're pissed. And I'll get to the line they have right before this, but there's a line that I do want to double back to. But they're real pissed about the rain. The mud monster comes back to life and scares them. Freeze frame. Episode over.
Oh, and not just freeze frame. This is another time where the kids are supposed to scream. They are laughing.
Clearly.
It ends on a freeze frame of them, like, they did one take. It's amazing how they didn't do another take of it. The mud monster just going, like, half hand on the shoulder. One boy not even bothering to turn around, just getting off the chair and going, ha! And that's freeze frame is on
Freeze frame over.
And you know who aired that? News Corp, man.
News
Rupert
Corp.
Murdoch feeding us that corporate schlock.
You know,
man.
Dom, if I wasn't wrong, I'd say you're saying that Fox News Corp was covering up the Mud Monsters are real.
Yeah, they tried to make it a mockery.
I think Rupert Murdoch is a mud man deep down inside. I think he's hiding inside a human skin.
Google search him right now. You will probably think he is a mudman.
If you search Rupert Murdoch Mudman,
or Robert Murdoch, his ugly brother.
or Rupert Mudmock, his real name.
Rupert, wait, what? What is it?
Muddock.
Muddock.
Rupert Muddock. That's
Rupert Muddock.
His
The
real
doctor of mud.
Roop Dirt.
Dr. Mud.
He left his doctor position as head of the Mudman to come and run human Fox News. Yeah, they leave him there so those kids die, I guess. So it's supposed to be a scary moment after just like 5 minutes of Laurel and Hardy type hijinks.
Well, those kids being the dumbest pieces of shit ever, they deserve it, because here's their last line. Here's the... Listen to these 3 Shakespearean sentences that come out of their mouths.
Sure.
They're sitting in the rain at a picnic table, and Eddie is sitting there, and he says this. He says, "Shouldn't we get out of the rain?" And Hat says, "What for?" And Eddie just goes, "Yeah."
I love that too.
She talk like book.
She talk like book. Me hate book girl. Me hate book girl.
I gotta say, the book might be better than
it is.
the episode.
Oh, it is. Yeah, the show is
bad.
But the book is kind of. But I just want to go ahead and read you the worst cliffhanger in all of Goosebumps
Please.
thus far.
Please.
This is knee deep in the prank wars.
Okay.
They're scheming on pranks. They're thinking of pranks. In fact, they just thought of another prank, and our hero, Eddie, hero is in quotations, our hero, Eddie, is fantasizing about how it will be pulled off and how it will scare her so bad, and they're all going to laugh, and it's going to be incredible. And then he says, "The unhappy picture vanished from my mind as I suddenly realized I was no longer alone." Oh, maybe he was fantasizing about getting something backfiring or something. I don't think so. I don't think so. But anyway, raising my eyes to the doorway, I gasped sharply and saw the tall, lean monster stagger toward me, its face dripping with dark blood.
I'm on board.
It turned out to be his brother.
That's right. I forgot.
There is no blood on his face.
He had like a psychotic episode.
Yeah, he I think Eddie should maybe seek help because he's not well.
Yeah.
But no, it's just the dumbest cliffhanger. Like, nowhere have mud monsters were mentioned way early on, but have never been brought up until this point. This teases some kind of mud monster with blood on its face.
And they didn't even have like a thing at the end of the next chapter, right, where it's like, oh, Eddie had just spilled strawberry jam all over his face eating a sandwich. Num, 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 num. You'd be like,
no,
oh,
it's just his
Or
fucking
like
brother.
Eddie was testing out makeup for his movie or something like that.
Oh, there you go, Paul. Nailed it.
Well, the other thing is that the cliffhangers, like, he was real bored doing this one because the cliffhangers really, really get lazy. Mm-hmm. And one of the hallmarks of a lazy RL cliffhanger is little did I know how scary things would get.
That is the
He uses that like 3 times at the end of this fucking book.
Yeah, like what else would you do in a book where virtually there's no monsters or scares other than pranks that they like? If you were following the main character, at least you could have done cliffhangers of like, and then a spider was on me or whatever. Like you could do, like if it was happening to the girl and not the 2 boys,
right,
there'd be at least scares on the pranks that were being played on her. But no. There's nothing. Nothing happens.
Chad, I got this. Chad and Paul. Chad's in front of me. Paul's in the internet. I can see him just past the dancing hamster.
Via your Vive swordfish.
My Vive. Well, I said swordfish backwards while wearing my Vive, and that's how you do it.
Yeah. Don't tell everyone. Now we're gonna get fucking hacked.
Fuck, damn
Jesus
it.
Christ.
Well, you have good internet, right?
Yeah, I got 7 proxies. We'll be fine.
There's guns in that internet, right?
I got an internet dog. The internet dog will keep people away.
I got this idea for a book, guys.
Let's hear it.
It's called it's called The Toxic crazy monsters from underneath our world.
Okay.
And on the cover, it's got this like ooze monster that's dripping, and it's holding a handgun, and that's on the cover. But I'm thinking what I want to do is I really want to set up these characters, so I'm just gonna have them maybe play fight each other just the entire book.
I like that. Yeah,
Okay.
we'll really care about them by the end.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna bring out the ooze guys.
Yeah, for like 5 pages.
Do you think I should do that?
I think it's well-worn territory, but maybe you can get a fresh take on it.
Yeah. Okay. Final thoughts, gentlemen.
Yeah. Here's the number one thing going through my head, because nothing really happens in the book. But when I watched the episode, how much must it have sucked to have been the actor in that mud monster costume?
Dude,
because it looks very cumbersome.
You see his clear human eyes throughout the entire thing.
Yeah. It's like Ninja Turtles, the first movie where you can see the eyes through the mouth. He's just laying in mud and fake rain for probably 2 days of shooting as shitty kids just hit you.
I don't think they shot for 2 days. I think they shot for 1. I think they shot for 1 day.
You think they
out
just
there.
kind of did it?
Yeah, they did 1 day.
Either way, that's a shitty gig.
Nick and I
actually. Remember, this is Canada. This is airing on television, and somebody's nephew gets to go. My uncle was in Goosebumps. That's my uncle standing right there.
That's my uncle right there. He's also was in the Bible.
Yeah, he was also in the Bible. If you look closely,
I did picture whatever actor played the Mud Monster having a party, and then having the night that episode aired on TV. And everyone's like, "Hey, Richard, that's you!"
And he kept the Mud Monster costume, and he wore it to the party.
Canada is very different from America. It's small. Yeah. It's small town up there, so everybody knows each other.
You also know that, someone at the party, be it a girl or a boy, depending on Richard's sexuality, was like, "Hey, you're pretty good as that mud monster. You wanna take me in back and show me the costume?" And then Richard made love to that person with the mud monster costume on.
No way, that was a rental. Okay.
No, he stole it. He stole it.
Okay.
He stole it. Yeah, he stole it from the prop department.
He paid the $50 deductible and just kept it. Yeah,
and then he cut a hole for his mud dick.
Yeah, exactly. For his mud dick. I thought about that, how much it must have sucked to be him. I also wanted to point out that the essay that the boys wrote, I believe, was specifically when they got in trouble at the end, right? Or when they get in trouble midway through, the essay that they have to write for pulling a prank is specifically about how it's wrong to steal living things and drop them on people's heads.
Yeah, it's very specific to their punishment.
It wasn't just don't pull pranks. It was specifically that one detail.
That's kids, man. They're like, what did you learn? I learned this one specific thing.
No spiders from balconies. Got it. Only thing I learned.
That's kids, man. That's actually maybe a little true.
That's
pretty true.
That was that and the gum thing were spot on moments for R.L. Stein.
I gotta say, this gets 0 out of 5 curly skulls.
Oh, I am not feeling this one.
Curly skulls.
Curly skulls. Yeah.
Curly skull. I would just rather look at a picture of Curly Skull.
That's
scarier.
That's real. It's real scary because I know the human it came from.
Curly from the Three Stooges.
Oh yeah, that makes it more scary. Yeah. Oh, they never said that was one of the Three Stooges skeletons, did they?
No. Well, it's implied.
Oh, that's really that's really solid. Guys,
I think the most offensive thing about this book is that I didn't have anything to really say about it because it was that bad. It's almost worse than the ones that are really bad with ridiculous happenings because they're, like we said the whole time, nothing happened. So there was just nothing to really talk about. You know what I mean?
What was the other one that was like that? I think it was Be Careful What You Wish For, maybe?
Yeah.
Like that nothing happens?
Yeah, you're just kind of it's just turn it, like both of them are kind of hey, be careful, kids. You could get yourself in some trouble.
But it's basically watch a kid never learn a lesson.
But you have the power of books, imagination. You could have literally anything happen in a book. There's no budget.
No.
RL, make sure these are adaptable because we got an agreement with Fox Kids.
That would actually be a fascinating theory if that somehow RL was that forward thinking in the industry, which is impressive for the 90s.
It was not him. It was somebody at Scholastic.
Still, very forward thinking of the time to go, we want to turn these into TVs and movies and everything. You need to keep the budget of the stories down.
That makes sense.
It's crazy that explains why some of these books have nothing happen. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Any other final thoughts, guys?
My final thought is Horrorland is next.
I'm so excited.
And I'm actually excited because I hear this one actually does pull out a couple stops.
Horrorland I'm going to ruin this because I haven't read it in a while. In my memory, Horrorland is one of the first times where it's like, oh, this is a crazy concept, and we actually go full tilt into it.
Yeah, it's
like the bad version of Horrorland would be like they don't get to the park until the very end or something of the book, and just be like on the car ride there.
It's like it's Horrorland the whole way, pretty much.
Yeah, it was the first time as a kid I was like, oh, this series is great because this is a fun concept. I want to know what it's like.
I think this was the first Goosebumps book that I actually read. Like I didn't get into them right away, and I got this one, and I was like, "Oh, this is great!" And then, so I'm a little nervous because I don't want it to be bad.
If it doesn't hold up, it's gonna be disappointing.
I think you. I remember you describing it as it got you rock solid.
Yes, yeah,
yeah. Oh, yeah. Also, I will say though, the TV show ahead of time, the monster costumes are some of the worst in the show. Because they had to do like a bunch of monsters, so they're all just like clearly rubber masks.
I'm pretty sure it's shot at a lot where they have the Renaissance Fair, and they do not have the budget to fill the Renaissance Fair lot.
It's like because it's some illegal footage at Knott's Berry Farm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Very excited about it.
Excited about it.
I think that's it. By the way, should we do some reviews?
Let's read a couple of reviews. All right, so I have a review here. It's by Pat the Head IOU. It's a 5-star review. We only read the 5-star reviews because they're the best. The greatest team since Elsa and Spider-Man. And much like Elsa and Spider-Man videos, I'm not sure if it's porn or not, but I'm into it.
That's pretty great. By the way, my YouTube history is now ruined, and I constantly get recommended Spider-Man.
Oh, me too. I know.
That's why I'm glad we watched those at your house.
I can't get away from it. It follows me. Dom, you want to do one?
Sure. This review here is by Eagles Girl 96. Could be the Philadelphia Eagles. Who knows?
Probably.
This one is titled Memories from the Decade I Almost Missed. Being born in the late 90s, I never got to have my socks knocked off by this spooktastic series, but did read some in elementary school. It was never as amazing as you guys make them totally to be. You guys have the best banter and interesting topics that me and my boyfriend, who introduced me to the show less than a week ago,
good boyfriend,
talked about for a while after we were done listening. I am addicted, in all caps, addicted, and also totally afraid of a culling happening. You know, man, the first couple of reviews we got on this show, people were like, they don't talk about Goosebumps enough. They keep talking about all their stupid
warning
stuff.
People about the culling.
You know what's more interesting than the Goosebumps books? Our lives, okay? Your life is more interesting than a goddamn Goosebumps book, okay? We'll talk about it all day. Spider-Man, Elsa, Pink Spider-Girl. You never heard of that in your life. Now it's an enigma freaking embedded into your mind. You'll never have it solved. You'll be thinking about that forever.
I was just going to say thanks, but cool.
I was going to we're going to have to pipe in some like Southern Baptist like choir music underneath that entire speech.
I have full faith that I would make an awesome preacher.
Oh, you would be really good.
I speak for myself.
I was fanning myself just there and then. By the way, just side note, I am loving how many people tell us that they listen to this podcast with their significant others. I don't know why.
I love that.
I don't know why. I'm picturing you guys like cuddling up on the couch and just having a nice little mug of cocoa while you listen to us talk about Spider-Man and Elsa, but I love it.
That's a pretty picture you painted.
Did you just spill your cocoa? I'm sorry, but this is a spooky show.
That's right, Jason and Brittany. Just in case that's your guys' names.
We know that's you.
I also have a review from Magic Steve 83. 5 stars, spooky fun from your childhood. And they write, do you want an experience that is equal parts spooky and hilarious? Something that leaves you smiling and satisfied in the wee hours of the morning? Something that leaves you with fond memories of your childhood and endlessly quotable lines from our main hosts? If so, rent Young Frankenstein. That movie's amazing, but Goosebuds isn't bad either. 5 stars. That had a twist. That review had a twist, and I'm okay with that because Young Frankenstein's pretty good.
Worthy of R.L. Stein himself.
Pretty good, pretty worthy.
You know what's not good? Spaceballs, guys.
You know, that's the thing.
Agree.
Spaceballs does not hold up very well.
If you're a kid and you grow up with Spaceballs, it's great because there's a bunch of like little fun, clever jokes that kids can understand. So that's why kids really love it.
There's like
try watch it today. It is not good.
There's like 5 good jokes in it, and it's pretty much just Rick Moranis playing with dolls in his room.
Yeah, I do like Rick Moranis.
I had an embarrassing 30-second story. I had an embarrassing time in high school where we had like a week where we got to watch like whatever movies we wanted to suggest in the room because class was just over. Everyone brought in great films, and I was like, guys, we're going to watch Spaceballs. Everyone was like, nah. I was like, guys, trust me, it's hilarious. And as horror crept over the entire period, as I realized that it did not hold up as well as I thought at all. And by the time they're like, by the time the like tidy yogurt, his name is Yogurt. Come on, Mel Brooks, I love you, but his name is Yogurt instead of Yoda. Is fighting, and they're like just having their lightsabers stuck together. I just went to the room and went, "I'm so sorry, everyone. We don't have to keep watching this. Like we can stop."
I had a similar experience with The Wizard of Oz. It just came out on VHS, like this big special edition, and it had just snowed, so we had to stay inside. So I was like, "I got The Wizard of Oz," and the teachers were like, "Fucking A, Wizard of Oz is the best movie ever made," because we grew up with it. It's fucking awesome. We'll play it. And we had to watch it for like 3 days in a row because it's a short recess period that we would have had, and kids were mad at me.
Well, to be fair, that movie was the first thing where color was a thing.
Yeah, it was
so
fucking
everyone's
sweet.
expectations are a little bit different.
It's pretty sweet.
See, I had the opposite story. I brought Five O Goes West in, and it killed.
Five O Goes West is amazing.
Especially those sexual undertones that get real sexy.
What sexual undertones?
Don Bluth movies always have this weird
was there like a sexy
sexual
mouse?
exchange.
There was a sexy mouse or something.
There's a sexy something in every Don Bluth.
You're right. There's like a saloon girl or something that's kind of sexy.
Yeah, I mean, he knew he could draw real sexy, so he just did it.
Yeah, he just fucking did
Now
it.
I'm going to look up sexy Five O Goes West. Anyway, thank you so much for leaving reviews on the shows, guys. It helps us a lot. It helps us get discovered by new listeners and other people on iTunes.
And thank you to the people who are tweeting about the show.
Tweet about the show. Yeah. Besides leaving a review on iTunes, you can also tweet about the show. We're on Twitter at GoosebudsPod. We see you guys tweeting, telling people about what shows you like, and you mention us. That's pretty great.
We see everything.
We see everything. People like Arched Zero, Play on Steve, Sam Kim, Emilio Amaro, TJ Denzer, Tasty RC, and Keith Roboduke. Thank you so much for telling people about the show.
Thank you.
So much. And just a few of the people have done it. We love you all for it. What else? Go check out our other stuff we make. You should be checking out Paperback Paradise if you're not listening to that. Not listening to that. Let me say it again.
You can listen to it if your boyfriend reads it to you.
I guess that's true. Yeah, have a boyfriend read you the covers from Paperback Paradise.
Yeah, why
I would
not?
love to see what that is. You should also check out Continue Show. You should check out Paranoia Shop when we do more episodes. What else are we forgetting, guys?
At Quantum Theory, at Paul Ritchie, at Dom Muschietti.
Oh, yeah, that's true. And you know what? Go give some love to the guy who wrote our theme song, Seth Hendricks, at SethHendricks.net. He's amazing. We never give him enough love. Guys, next
Go
episode.
buy a gun. You can do that,
Go
too.
buy
It's
a
easy.
gun.
You can go get one if you want one, and if you want to take a life, you can. I'm just saying that those are your choices. You will go to jail, but those are your choices.
But those are your
Listen
choices.
to our stuff and watch our shows first, but if you get bored after that, buy a gun.
Buy a gun, bury it in the ground so no one can get it but you.
Shoot the earth.
That's what you're supposed to do. Okay.
We'll see you next time in Horrorland.
I'm so excited. Horrorland!
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.